Hey y'all, I'm Ralper, and welcome to Skyrim Scripting. This is part of our series where we are learning SKSE, or Skyrim Script Extender development in C++. And this episode is one of my favorites. This is actually the whole reason why I got involved in SKSE development in the first place. The ability to create native Papyrus functions. Now, if you are not a Papyrus developer, this might be totally new to you, but for the Papyrus developers out there, you have probably used, or at least heard of, mods, libraries more specifically, like Papyrus Util, JContainers, Papyrus Extender. These, as you can tell from that last one's name, extend Papyrus by adding new scripts, which you could do in regular Papyrus, and they add new functions you could also do in regular Papyrus, but what these do, which you cannot do in regular Papyrus scripts, is when you call the functions, it invokes native code. So for example, in our C++ series here, we can run C++ code. What does that mean? That means whenever you call this Papyrus function, you can have it do whatever you want. Like anything. It could literally call your mom, like in real time, whatever you want. Anything that's possible with native code on a computer. So that is what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to assume for this, especially because it's a rough draft version of this episode, that you are already familiar with Papyrus development. I'm even going to assume that you have a Papyrus environment up and running and you are used to coding Papyrus in something like Visual Studio. You have some way of compiling your Papyrus scripts. If that is our baseline, let's go ahead and continue. Now I have one extra surprise for you. I'm going to bring this up when I re-record the intro series, intro episode for the rough draft. You may have been with me an episode or two ago when I ranted and raved about how the Skyrim community doesn't have enough documentation for Common Lib. Well, I started making documentation for Common Lib. So, after this episode, I'm going to start putting more stuff in here. I actually have, like, for SKSE, if we go to SKSE, there is a creating native Papyrus functions page, and it has a little bit of code that we will use today. And by the time you watch this episode, hopefully there'll be more content here. If there isn't, I'll add it soon. Don't worry about it. But what I've actually done for this episode is I just went to the Hello World template. I customized it, I tweaked it, and I ended up with a Papyrus script inside of it that can do something. That's where I need you to be. I need you to be in a place where you have a Papyrus script that runs and can trigger an SKSE implemented Papyrus function. So if I go into Riverwood here, I believe I configured it so that whenever I hit the home key, something happens. Whatever we want to happen happens. And at the moment, boop, I just have it opening up a little debug message box. We will do something here. That is a great place for you to be. And that's where we are. So what do we do? Well, I've got this SKSE Hello World template that I downloaded. I renamed it to Native Papyrus Functions. And so first, we should probably start with the Papyrus. I like to design what the Papyrus functions interface will be. We'll do something really simple. Let's say our Papyrus functions, script name, our Papyrus functions. Some folks will put hidden after this so it doesn't show up in Creation Kit in the chooser. It's kind of good convention. And then we'll just have a function that returns a string. Function say hello. And it's going to be a global function, which usually your C++ functions will be. And then it'll be native. And now because it's native, it doesn't have a body. It doesn't have an end function. If it weren't native, it would look like this, and you would do stuff in here. But we get rid of the end function, and we just say native. And now what our code can do is, let's go to our Papyrus script. And instead of saying debug message box will do something here, let's say string C++ result equals our Papyrus functions dot say hello. Boop. Oops. Great, it returns a string, and we will say C++ told us and C++ result. Okay, and we can compile that however you normally compile things. I'm compiling things using the Pyro extension, using the Papyrus extension rather of Visual Studio Code, which uses Pyro, whatever, Papyro. And you'll notice that we also end up with our compiled script that has the functions. So that's important, right? You need to make sure that you compile the script that you're going to use for actual application or that some other people will use, you know? But you need to compile and ship the compiled version of this, okay? So you're going to want to ship your mod with the source code for our Papyrus functions.psc, not in a BSA, loose. You're going to want to put our Papyrus functions, whenever you give this mod to other people, into the scripts source folder. So when they download your mod and they look in script source, they'll see your PSC file. And you must duplicate it. Make sure that in your downloaded mod, there's a folder called source with a subfolder called scripts, and your PSC file is also in there, because some people in the community assume that your Papyrus script files, your source code files, will be in script source and some source scripts. It's very frustrating, but you want to support both. And then your scripts directory, this could be in a BSA or not, doesn't matter, needs to have all of your Papyrus scripts compiled.pax files. Don't mess that up, okay? Oakley dokley, let's say hello. So if we were to run this in the game and look in the Papyrus logs, it would say something like tried to call unbound function our Papyrus function say hello, because we haven't implemented this. And it's quite simple to implement. So here's the hello world mod. And so you know how we do get messaging interface and then we register a listener? Well, we're going to say get Papyrus interface, and we're going to register like just a function that returns true. It's kind of silly. What I normally do is void Papyrus function bindings or whatever. Papyrus, we call it bind. You can call it whatever you want. It actually needs to return a bool, needs to return true. You could have it return false if something blows up. There's functions. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. Boop, boop. Okay. But of course, we need to actually implement this function, right? This say hello function. I like to just copy it and put it in my C++ code with a comment. Sometimes I'll say Papyrus. Okay. And so now we know that's the function we need to implement. And so let's paste it again and basically just turn it into C++. Let's say standard string. And then we don't say function, we just say the function's name. We don't say global, well, we don't say native. There is something we do to make this global, and it's silly. Global functions, in most languages, you would call them static functions, static methods. And so you can tag a function as being a static function. It's just necessary, and it's the way that CommonLib has implemented things in its library. But CommonLib has implemented this generally so well. It's so easy to bind Papyrus functions. It's great. But for this, it's a little silly. You just say static function tag star. It's a pointer. It's a pointer to a static function tag. And if you hover over static function tag, which will be doable as soon as I make this compile by removing global and doing that. It's just an empty struct. It's just used to tag this function. And now let's just return hello from C++. We could do something to like prove that it's C++. I could get some environment variable. I could do whatever. I could get the current time. What should I do? Something to prove that it's C++. I don't know. We can have it open up a browser if you want to. Let's say auto system name is, how do you get a system name? Okay, here we go. Let's couple things. One, I don't know if this is gonna work. We're gonna try and get the environment variable called hostname. I don't know if that even works on Windows. But this complains whenever I try and compile it because this register is supposed to actually take a parameter, and it's supposed to take the virtual machine for Papyrus. So it's supposed to take vs script I virtual machine pointer, and then we're actually going to use it. So instead of just returning true, let me show you that although we created our Papyrus function here, and we created a C++ function here that has the same signature, nothing knows that that maps to the other. Nothing knows that whenever you call the Papyrus function, you should call your function. So we're going to do that. So we're actually going to do that with this little virtual machine that gets passed to us. We're going to say VM register function. And first, it takes the function name. So that is say hello. And then it takes the class name, which is the script name, which is our Papyrus function. Then what it calls the callback, which is the actual function. Okay. Okay. Let's compile, see if it compiles, go to the game, and see if it works. Okay. I really want to make that website, but I don't have time to do all these things that I want to do. I just gotta help y'all get up and running with SKSE. That's my jam right now. All right, let's see what happens when I hit the home key. Crashes. Okay, good-ish. Something happened. That's great. Works for me, kind of. There might not be a hostname variable. Terminal echo hostname. Oh, let's do it in CMD because PowerShell doesn't work like that. And I don't want to do it the PowerShell way. There is no hostname. Let's just return the path. Current path. The path is, why would we do the path? I don't know. I'm just trying to prove to you that we're doing stuff that you couldn't do in regular Papyrus. You could have it call your mom, but that would take a while. It would, we'd have to break it up to some phone system, right? We'd have to do all kinds of stuffs, which in C++ you could do. You could route Papyrus somehow to your mom, or, you know, your friend, or yourself, or, you know, your phone, or you could make it send a fucking text message if you want to, like, whatever you want. See if it crashes, it might. Home key. Hey, look, shit that we wouldn't be able to get in Papyrus. C++ told us, here's the path. It's got all kinds of crap in it. There's my Git. There's my Microsoft Windows apps. There's my LLVM and my mod organizer too. All kinds of stuff. Chocolatey. There you go, ladies and jelly spoons. We did it. What else do you want to know? There's not a whole lot more to know. We are using our Papyrus script. It's a Quest script. If we wanted to, you could implement a instance function on that script. So not a global one. It's generally like not like super helpful. These, until we get script objects kind of a little bit more powerful. It's just, I'd show you, but it could blow up and I don't want to waste your time. So the main thing I want to show you is sometimes you'll want to know who called me. That actually happens very often, believe it or not. May not make sense to you now, but you will get to a point where you're going to want to be like, hey, what script called me and what function? So that, for example, in someone's code, they could say register for cool event, my callback, and then they would say event my callback, okay? Okay. If this is your C++ function, which you could do if you make it not static, and you hook it up to like the Papyrus script, maybe I'll show you that. Maybe we can make this work. You're going to want to know that this function got called by our Papyrus script so that whenever an event happens, and even the instance, like even the form and stuff, so that whenever your event happens, your cool event, you can trigger the my callback function on our Papyrus script. I'm going to have an episode where we focus on like invoking Papyrus functions and doing more like cool Papyrus virtual machine things, and I don't want to really waste your time now. So let me just copy and paste some code that will show you who called your function, and then we'll call it. All right, here we go. You ready for this? Okay. Our Papyrus script do something is going to call say hello. Okay. Let's go into the game. I'm going to press the button that triggers this. We zoom in. C++ told us hello from C++. You called me from script, our Papyrus script, function, do something, which is indeed true. That is indeed the case. So how did I do that? Looks gnarly if you're not accustomed to like stack frames and whatever, but just that's the code. If you want the code, that's the code. Use the code. The main difference is instead of our function just taking a static function tag, our function takes two arguments before that, virtual machine and stack ID. I wonder if this needs to be internal virtual machine. I wonder if it can be by virtual machine. No, never mind. It must be internal virtual machine. And so basically you get the stack ID and you use the virtual machine and get all the stacks that are running because there's multiple. And then you look up the stack and then you get the second because it's pair. And then you basically end up getting the previous frame that called us. Just use code. Just use code. And I guess, like a lame person, I didn't show you how to pass arguments. Int number, okay? Int number. Where's our C++? You would just add that over here. Int number. You called us, hi from C++, you called the number is blah, and I'll put a number, save, let me see this in the game. Okay, I was about to run the game, but I need to actually pass a number. So in our Papyrus script, let's say hello with 69, we could say 69,420. Compile it. Kind of important. Go to the game. And so that's what you do. You pass in arguments. You can pass in actors, object references, whatever. Once you learn the game object types like test_obj_ref for object references and stuff, you can pass them in. You pass them in as pointers. Let's hit the button. You called us with the number 69. That's so I can zoom in. 69 420, and you called me from our script. Yada 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 yada. That's it. I'm going to probably call the Rough Draft series at this point and go ahead and release these first episodes so that folks like you can get up and running with SKSE programming. If you run into problems with any of this, come on over and hang out with us in my Discord server. Got more and more C++ folks who are hanging out and doing SKSE with us, and they should be able to help you, or I can help you, or I don't know, maybe you can help other people. So I guess that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna re-record the first episode because the sound got fucked up. Then I'm gonna release this thing. Happy modding. Special thanks to all my community. Special thanks to everyone on my Discord who's been pushing me to actually get this thing released. I will do a much nicer, more polished version of the series at some point in 2023 before end of year. That's my goal. But in the meantime, happy modding. Happy modding, everyone.